40 more target future killings continue to create fear in Colombia. This is where we know that this is a global issue. The rise in the violence against Black Colombians is a result of a long-standing racial inequality and prejudice, and the effect of the country's decade-old civil war, which has displaced an estimated, as Brother James and Brother Chucho mentioned, estimated 2 million Afro-Colombians. As Chucho mentioned, Genaro Garcia Ramirez, Gilmer Genaro Garcia Ramirez, was murdered on August 3rd in the streets of Colombia. And he was shot and killed by guerrillas of the FARC near the Rescate de las Barrias in Tumaco. Genaro was a tireless advocate for Afro-Colombian rights, who for the past 5 years has denounced repeated death threats and persecution against him and members of his community. In August 16th of 2012, Yerlin Maricel Garcia, his sister, was killed in Tumaco when armed men seeking Genaro failed to locate him. So this is not just immediate on the folks that are doing the work, it also then becomes a threat to those who are family members. Some more members of the community councils have been killed, threatened, and attacked for similar reasons. In 1998, Francisco Hurtado Cabezas. On January 14, 2008, Pablo Gutierrez. In 2008, murders resulted in displacement of an entire directive of the community council, including Genaro. In February 2012, a ruling by a judge in Pasto ordered UMP to design and implement a protection plan for the leaders and members of this community council. This is also not gender exclusive. As recently as July 27th, our colleagues, Javier Duoti and I are members of the Red de Mujeres Afro, the network of Afro-Latin American women. Our sisters in Cambiri's office were attacked, and the individuals stole their desktop, their computers, their printers, and according to the statement from the sisters, it is believed that the theft was targeted towards the organization due to the working, promotion, human rights in Afro-Colombian women. An attack of someone who's very dear to so many of us in this room, especially Javier and I, because we can actually call her a friend, is Francia Marquez, who is an Afro-Colombian leader from the northern parts of Cauca. And Francia and a group of women in Cauca marched from Cauca to Bogota in April of this year. And they actually took over the government building for a few days, demanding, because what is happening in the Cauca area, the communities have been able to live off of the mining. And now you have illegal miners are coming in and taking away the mining from the people, and also contaminating the rivers that they have been living off of for centuries. And keep in mind, these are ancestral lands. Colombia has laws that protects their ancestral lands, and these illegal miners are coming in and refusing to honor these ancestral lands. Francia has actually been placed on that list of 40, and as recently as a month ago, if it wasn't for folks in her community, she would have been death on that list if they did not get her out in time. So she now moves around in hiding, was also a part of the peace dialogues in Cuba, but it's not just gender-based, because women are also being killed and attacked in this war against people of African descent. There was a public declaration by one of the top organizations, COMPA, and also Afrodes, FISH, CEPAC, that recently came out. And what they're debating in the conversation in Havana is that they call for an immediate adoption of humanitarian accords, which leaves our territories, communities, and rights out of the confrontation, because a lot of the confrontations that have been happening are in Afro-Colombian land. We request that the parties receive a delegation made up of Afro-Colombian Black, Palenqueros, and Racial people. We petition that the subcommission be established that jointly addresses the indigenous, Afro-Colombian Black, Racial, and Rom peoples, the guarantees of rights in their agreements, and the implementation of them. Given the humanitarian situation experienced in many of our territories, COMPA will work towards carrying out a humanitarian mission in Tumaco, and visits of accompaniment of other communities, for which we request the collaboration of the United Nations and other humanitarian organizations at present in the community. So what we're seeing also is, we're hearing about the KKK leaving pamphlets around and almost like threats. Well, there's also these pamphlets being left around in black communities in Colombia that are calling for social cleansing. And when some of the killings have happened, when a general has been killed and when other young men have been killed, the statements have been kill the black people, kill these guerrillas, kill these animals. So some of those same statements that we are hearing, it speaks to what we're talking about today, is making that Pan-African connection and taking ourselves out of just an American context or even a Latin American context from the country of our birth, but to a global context and seeing ourselves in the Afro-Colombian conflict. Some of the solutions that they are asking for is that make the peace process inclusive of Afro-Colombian and indigenous communities, which they do not feel that is happening currently. Protect human rights defenders and peace activists, to have that list going around and to see that it's actually playing itself out, because it's almost a week, right? Jamil, Chujo, that we hear of some other leader getting killed. Afro-Colombian and indigenous rights should not be an afterthought. It is sort of seen as something other than the conversation that's happening between government and the guerrillas and guerrilleros, and for us it's the same conversation. And that conversation needs to include the indigenous and the Afro-Colombian voice. I think that's, as specific as I think we needed to get. I didn't want to go over time. So many of us here can answer the questions. But my hope is, I'm born and raised in Panama. Panama is even being affected by the issue of Colombia because Afro-Colombians are moving into Darien. So it's not a separate conversation for Afro-Panamanians either. And Panamanians and Venezuelans have been one. I mean, we were one. At one point they sold this for $1 to the US. We'll never forgive you for that, but anyway. So that's where we need to start making that connection of the Pan-African context that is included in why Colombia is so key, why Haiti is so key, the conflict of Haiti and the Dominican Republic is so key for all of us, because that is about all of us. That is not just about Dominicans, that is not just about Haitians, this is not just about Afro-Colombians, this is about Afro-descendants wherever we're standing, because that is who we are, and this is an attack on all of us, and we should see it as such.
Yeah.